Welcome to Stoic Vivu, where ancient wisdom meets modern living. Here on our channel, we're dedicated to transforming the timeless teachings of classical Stoic philosophy into practical tools that help you turn life's greatest challenges into opportunities for extraordinary personal growth and unshakable inner strength. You're living through one of the most difficult periods in recent history, facing challenges that seem to multiply faster than you can solve them. Perhaps you're dealing with career uncertainty, relationship struggles, health concerns, financial pressure, or the loss of something important to you. Every time you think you've gained some stability, another obstacle appears, and you find yourself wondering if you're strong enough to handle whatever comes next. You're not alone in feeling overwhelmed by the relentless pace of difficulty that modern life seems designed to deliver. What if you discovered that over 2,000 years ago, the greatest philosophers in history faced challenges far more severe than anything most of us will ever encounter? Yet they developed a complete system for transforming every obstacle into a source of strength. What if they proved that your greatest difficulties contain the exact experiences you need to develop extraordinary resilience, wisdom, and inner power that no external circumstance can ever take away from you? Marcus Aurelius ruled the Roman Empire while facing plague, war, political betrayal, and personal tragedy. Yet he maintained perfect emotional balance and effective leadership because he understood that obstacles aren't roadblocks to success but the actual path to developing unshakable character. Seneca lost his fortune multiple times, faced exile and political persecution. Yet he discovered that adversity creates capabilities and wisdom that comfortable circumstances could never provide. Epictetus endured slavery and physical disability, yet he became one of history's most influential teachers because he learned to extract strength and insight from every form of suffering. Today, you're going to learn their complete system for obstacle transformation. Not positive thinking or empty motivation, but practical techniques for converting every setback into a setup for greater success, every challenge into character development, and every crisis into an opportunity for discovering inner resources you never knew you possessed. You'll discover why the obstacles in your path aren't evidence that you're on the wrong track, but proof that you're exactly where you need to be for your next level of growth. Most importantly, you'll learn to develop what the Stoics called an unshakable foundation that grows stronger with every challenge you face. This isn't about avoiding difficulty or pretending that problems don't hurt, but about building the kind of resilience that transforms you into someone who can handle anything life presents while maintaining your peace, clarity, and forward momentum. The ancient Stoics understood something profound. The same circumstances that crush one person's spirit can forge another person's character into something virtually indestructible. The difference lies not in avoiding challenges, but in knowing how to extract maximum growth from whatever difficulties life provides. Over the next several sections, you'll learn exactly how to become the kind of person who gets stronger through adversity rather than being weakened by it. Let's begin transforming your greatest obstacles into your greatest opportunities for growth. 1. Discover the hidden power in every challenge. You're staring at the email that just shattered your plans for the next year. The promotion you've been working toward for months has been given to someone else, despite your excellent performance and dedication to the company. Your first impulse is to feel defeated, angry, or worried about your future prospects. The disappointment sits heavy in your chest, and you find yourself questioning whether your efforts matter, whether you're good enough, or whether you should start looking for opportunities elsewhere. This moment of crushing disappointment reveals exactly why most people never discover the extraordinary power hidden within every challenging experience that enters their lives. Marcus Aurelius, facing setbacks far more consequential than career disappointments, developed a revolutionary understanding that transformed how he experienced every obstacle throughout his reign as emperor. In his Meditations, he writes, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This wasn't philosophical wordplay, but a practical recognition based on direct experience that obstacles contain the exact ingredients needed to develop capabilities, insights, and strength that comfortable circumstances could never provide. The hidden power in your promotion disappointment becomes visible only when you shift from asking, "Why did this happen to me?" to asking, "What is this experience trying to teach me?" This fundamental change in questioning transforms you from a victim of circumstances into an active participant in your own development. The Stoics understood that every challenge arrives carrying gifts that are invisible to people focused only on immediate comfort or desired outcomes. Epictetus, who understood adversity intimately through his experience of slavery, taught that obstacles serve as customized training exercises designed to develop whatever inner qualities you most need to strengthen. Your promotion disappointment isn't a random piece of bad luck, but a precisely targeted opportunity to develop resilience, self-reliance, humility, or perhaps the courage to pursue better opportunities that align more closely with your values and long-term goals. This reframing requires what the Stoics called the discipline of perception, which means looking beyond immediate emotional reactions to see the developmental possibilities embedded within difficult experiences. When you didn't receive the promotion, the factual reality is simply that your supervisor made a personnel decision. Everything else, including what this means about your worth, your future, or your relationship with the company, represents interpretations that you can choose consciously rather than accepting automatically. Seneca provides practical guidance for discovering this hidden power in his letters to Lucilius. Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. Your promotion disappointment marks the end of one path while simultaneously opening doors to possibilities that weren't previously available. Perhaps this setback forces you to develop skills you've been neglecting, network with people outside your current circle, or clarify what kind of work environment actually serves your long-term satisfaction and growth. The ancient Stoics discovered that obstacles reveal information about yourself and your circumstances that success never exposes. Comfortable situations allow you to coast on existing capabilities without discovering your untapped potential or addressing your developmental blind spots. Challenges force you to stretch beyond your comfort zone, innovate solutions you wouldn't otherwise consider, and develop strength through direct experience rather than theoretical understanding. Consider how this applies to your career scenario. The promotion disappointment might reveal that you've been depending too heavily on external validation for your sense of professional worth. It might expose gaps in your political awareness, communication style, or strategic thinking that you can now address systematically. It might clarify that your current role doesn't actually align with your deeper interests and talents, freeing you to pursue directions that offer greater long-term satisfaction. Marcus Aurelius understood that recognizing this hidden power requires shifting your time frame from immediate results to long-term character development. The disappointment you feel today about the missed promotion might seem devastating from a short-term perspective, but it could become the catalyst for career moves that ultimately prove far more rewarding than the position you initially wanted. This expanded perspective transforms your relationship with uncertainty and setbacks because you begin to trust that challenging experiences serve your development even when you cannot immediately see how. You develop what the Stoics called confident engagement with difficulty, meaning you can face obstacles without being paralyzed by fear or overwhelmed by emotional reactions because you understand that every challenge contains opportunities for growth that cannot be accessed any other way. The practical application of this principle begins with conscious reframing every time you encounter obstacles. Instead of immediately focusing on what you've lost or what went wrong, you train yourself to ask, what capabilities is this experience asking me to develop? What insights might emerge from navigating this challenge skillfully? How might this apparent setback redirect me toward better opportunities? This isn't about forcing artificial positivity or pretending that difficulties don't involve real loss or genuine pain. The Stoic approach acknowledges that obstacles often hurt while simultaneously recognizing that this discomfort signals areas where you have the greatest potential for developing new strength, wisdom, and resilience. Epictetus taught that mastering this perspective creates what he called preferred indifference, meaning that while you naturally prefer success to failure and comfort to challenge, you recognize that difficulties often provide superior opportunities for personal development. Your promotion disappointment becomes preferable to easy success because it demands more of your character and creates more substantial growth. Therefore, discovering the hidden power in every challenge transforms obstacles from things that happen to you into experiences that develop you, converting every setback into raw material for building the extraordinary resilience and wisdom that comfortable circumstances could never provide. 2. Build mental strength that never breaks. You're going through the most challenging period of your life, facing multiple crises simultaneously that seem to test every aspect of your emotional and psychological resilience. Your aging parent has been diagnosed with a serious illness. Your relationship is going through a difficult phase, and your job security feels uncertain due to company restructuring. Each morning you wake up feeling like you're barely holding everything together, and you wonder how much more pressure you can handle before something inside you simply snaps. This overwhelming feeling reveals why the ancient Stoics developed specific techniques for building what they called an unshakable inner citadel, a form of mental strength that actually grows more solid under pressure rather than breaking down when life becomes difficult. Marcus Aurelius, who faced the simultaneous pressures of military campaigns, political intrigue, natural disasters, and personal losses while maintaining the stability of an entire empire, understood that mental strength isn't something you either possess or lack, but rather a capacity you develop systematically through specific practices and philosophical disciplines. In his Meditations, he writes, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This wasn't wishful thinking but hard-won wisdom from someone who discovered that unbreakable mental strength comes from understanding exactly where your true power lies and focusing all your energy within that sphere of influence. The foundation of unbreakable mental strength begins with what Epictetus taught as the fundamental distinction between what belongs to you completely and what lies partially or entirely outside your control. In your current crisis situation, you cannot control your parents' illness progression, your partner's emotional responses, or your company's business decisions. These external factors will fluctuate according to forces beyond your influence, and attempting to control them will exhaust your mental resources without producing the security you seek. However, you maintain complete authority over how you interpret these circumstances, how you respond to daily developments, what actions you take within your actual sphere of influence, and how you choose to grow through these challenging experiences. This clear boundary between controllable and uncontrollable factors becomes the foundation of unshakable strength because it ensures that your peace and stability depend only on factors that remain entirely within your power. Seneca provides practical guidance for building this mental fortress in his letters to Lucilius. Every moment think steadily as a Roman and a man. He's encouraging consistent dignity and philosophical perspective regardless of external circumstances, which creates what the Stoics called constant character. Instead of being strong on good days and falling apart during difficult periods, you develop the kind of mental stability that remains consistent because it doesn't depend on favorable external conditions. Applied to your multi-crisis scenario, this means approaching each challenge with the same fundamental approach. Clear assessment of what you can actually influence, acceptance of factors outside your control, and consistent action aligned with your values rather than driven by anxiety or emotional overwhelm. You cannot cure your parents' illness, but you can provide loving support and ensure they receive excellent care. You cannot force your relationship to be perfect, but you can communicate honestly and work on being the kind of partner who contributes to solutions rather than adding to problems. The ancient Stoics understood that unbreakable mental strength requires what Marcus Aurelius called voluntary hardship, which means periodically choosing discomfort when you don't have to so that you're prepared when circumstances force difficulty upon you. This isn't about creating unnecessary suffering, but about building confidence in your capacity to maintain equanimity when comfort isn't available. When you occasionally choose simple meals, uncomfortable temperatures, or challenging physical activities, you're developing trust in your ability to find peace and purpose regardless of external conditions. This preparation creates psychological resilience that transforms your relationship to potential future difficulties. Instead of living in constant anxiety about losing your health, your relationships, your financial security, or your comfortable lifestyle, you develop quiet confidence that you could handle these challenges if they arose because you've tested your capacity to maintain your philosophical center when circumstances become demanding. Epictetus taught that building unbreakable mental strength also requires what he called the discipline of desire, which means training yourself to want only what is entirely within your power to achieve. This shifts your deepest desires away from outcomes that depend on external factors toward internal goals that you can accomplish regardless of circumstances. Instead of desperately wanting your current crises to resolve quickly and painlessly, you can desire to handle them with wisdom, courage, patience, and grace. This reorientation of desire eliminates the internal conflict that weakens mental strength when you're simultaneously wanting circumstances to be different while needing to deal effectively with reality as it exists. When your primary goal becomes responding virtuously to whatever situations arise, you can achieve complete success regardless of external outcomes because your fundamental objectives remain entirely within your control. The daily construction of unbreakable mental strength requires what Marcus Aurelius practiced as evening reflection, which means regularly examining how well you applied philosophical principles during challenging situations and identifying specific areas for continued development. This isn't self-criticism about imperfections, but an honest assessment that treats mental strength development as seriously as you would treat physical fitness or professional skill building. Each day's challenges become training opportunities for strengthening your capacity to maintain equanimity under pressure, think clearly during emotional situations, and choose responses based on virtue rather than immediate emotional reactions. Your parents' illness becomes an opportunity to practice patience and compassion. Your relationship difficulties become chances to develop better communication and emotional regulation. Your job uncertainty becomes training in adaptability and trust in your own capabilities. The Stoics discovered that this approach creates what they called apatheia, which doesn't mean emotional numbness but rather freedom from being controlled by emotional reactions. You remain capable of appropriate feelings while developing immunity to the kind of emotional overwhelm that clouds judgment and weakens your capacity for effective action. Ultimately, mental strength that never breaks emerges through consistent practice in focusing your energy only on factors within your actual control while accepting everything else with philosophical grace, creating unshakable stability that grows stronger through every challenge you face. 3. Transform setbacks into success stepping stones. You're sitting in your car after what feels like the worst job interview of your professional life. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. You arrived 10 minutes late due to unexpected traffic, stumbled over basic questions you should have answered easily, and left feeling like you made a terrible impression on people you genuinely wanted to work with. The drive home feels endless as you replay every awkward moment, every missed opportunity to showcase your qualifications, and every sign that this position you really wanted is probably lost forever. This crushing sense of failure represents exactly the kind of experience that most people allow to diminish their confidence and momentum. But what if you learn to transform these apparent defeats into the precise stepping stones you need to reach unprecedented levels of success? Marcus Aurelius, who experienced military defeats, political setbacks, and personal losses that could have destroyed his effectiveness as a leader, developed a profound understanding of how setbacks serve as essential preparation for future success. In his meditations, he reflects, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." This wasn't philosophical abstraction but practical recognition that the same external events can either strengthen or weaken you depending entirely on how you choose to interpret and respond to them. The transformation of setbacks into stepping stones begins with what Epictetus taught as the discipline of judgment, which means carefully examining your thoughts about disappointing experiences before accepting them as final truths about yourself or your prospects. Your catastrophic job interview feels like evidence of your inadequacy only if you accept your initial emotional interpretation without philosophical examination. The actual facts are much simpler. You had a conversation with several people that didn't go as smoothly as you hoped. Everything else you're telling yourself about what this means represents interpretations that you can choose to accept, modify, or replace entirely with more empowering and accurate perspectives. Seneca provides guidance for this reframing process in his letters to Lucilius. Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. Your interview disappointment marks the end of one possibility while simultaneously creating conditions for better opportunities that weren't available before this experience occurred. The ancient Stoics understood that setbacks serve 3 essential functions that success alone cannot provide. First, they reveal specific areas where your preparation, skills, or approach need development that you might never have discovered through easy victories. Your interview difficulties probably exposed gaps in your preparation methods, presentation skills, or ability to handle unexpected stress that you can now address systematically before future opportunities arise. Second, setbacks force innovation and creative problem-solving that comfortable circumstances never demand. Perhaps your interview experience will lead you to develop better research techniques for understanding company culture, more effective methods for managing interview anxiety, or clearer ways of articulating your value proposition. These enhanced capabilities will serve you throughout your career in ways that a smooth interview process never could have developed. Third, setbacks build emotional resilience and character strength through direct experience rather than theoretical understanding. The disappointment you're feeling right now is actually developing your capacity to handle professional rejection without losing confidence in your fundamental worth and capabilities. This resilience becomes invaluable during future challenges because you'll have proven to yourself that setbacks don't define your identity or determine your ultimate success. Marcus Aurelius practiced what he called the view from above, which means stepping back from immediate emotional reactions to see setbacks within the larger context of your ongoing development and long-term trajectory. Your interview disappointment feels enormous today, but it represents one conversation during one afternoon of a career that will span decades and include countless opportunities to demonstrate your capabilities and find work that truly aligns with your interests and strengths. This expanded perspective doesn't minimize the real disappointment of missed opportunities, but prevents temporary setbacks from creating permanent damage to your motivation and self-confidence. You can acknowledge that this particular interview didn't go well, while recognizing that this single experience provides valuable information and preparation for future success, rather than evidence of fundamental inadequacy. The practical transformation of setbacks into stepping stones requires what Epictetus called systematic reflection, which means deliberately extracting specific lessons and improvements from disappointing experiences rather than simply hoping things will go better next time. You examine exactly what happened during your interview, identify specific moments where different preparation or responses might have created better outcomes, and develop concrete strategies for improving your performance in future opportunities. This systematic approach might reveal that you need to practice articulating your accomplishments more clearly, research company values more thoroughly, or develop techniques for managing pre-interview anxiety that affected your performance. Each of these insights becomes a specific area for development that transforms your setback into a customized curriculum for professional growth. Seneca taught that this transformation process requires what he called preferred indifference, meaning that while you naturally prefer success to failure and smooth interviews to difficult ones, you recognize that challenging experiences often provide superior opportunities for capability development and character strengthening. Your difficult interview becomes preferable to an easy one because it revealed important areas for improvement and built resilience that will serve you throughout your career. The most profound aspect of this transformation is how it changes your relationship with future challenges and uncertainties. When you develop skill at extracting growth from setbacks, you begin approaching potentially difficult situations with curiosity about what they might teach you rather than anxiety about what they might cost you. Future interviews become opportunities to demonstrate both your professional qualifications and your resilience, regardless of specific outcomes. This shift from fear-based avoidance to growth-oriented engagement fundamentally changes your trajectory because you're no longer limited by the need for perfect conditions or guaranteed outcomes. You can pursue ambitious opportunities, take calculated risks, and recover quickly from disappointments because you've developed confidence in your ability to grow stronger through any experience, regardless of immediate results. Therefore, transforming setbacks into success stepping stones creates unstoppable momentum in your personal and professional development because every experience becomes valuable raw material for building the capabilities and character strength that no external circumstance can diminish. 4. Master the art of strategic surrender. You're standing in the hospital waiting room after receiving news that your elderly parent needs emergency surgery, and despite your desperate desire to control the outcome, you realize there's absolutely nothing you can do to influence what happens in that operating room. Every fiber of your being wants to pace, make phone calls, research the surgeon's credentials, or somehow take action that might improve the situation. But the harsh reality is that your parents' medical outcome depends entirely on factors beyond your reach. This agonizing feeling of powerlessness reveals why most people exhaust themselves fighting battles they cannot win. But what if you discovered that strategic surrender, properly understood and applied, represents one of the most powerful tools for maintaining your strength and effectiveness during life's most challenging moments? Marcus Aurelius, despite commanding the most powerful military force in the ancient world, understood that true strength often requires the wisdom to stop fighting against unchangeable circumstances and redirect your energy toward areas where you can actually make a meaningful difference. In his meditations, he writes, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together." This wasn't passive resignation, but strategic wisdom that recognizes the difference between surrender that weakens you and surrender that preserves your power for battles you can actually win. The Stoic concept of strategic surrender begins with what Epictetus taught as the discipline of desire, which means training yourself to want only what lies entirely within your power to achieve. In your hospital waiting room scenario, strategic surrender means releasing your attachment to controlling your parents' surgery outcome while fully embracing your capacity to provide emotional support, coordinate family communications, and ensure that all practical arrangements are handled with care and efficiency. This isn't about giving up or becoming passive, but rather about focusing your limited mental and emotional energy on factors where your efforts can actually create positive results. You cannot control what happens during the surgery, but you can control how you support your family during this stressful time, how you communicate with medical staff to ensure the best possible care, and how you maintain your own emotional stability so you can be fully present for whatever outcomes emerge. Seneca provides practical guidance for this strategic approach in his letters to Lucilius. "What is grief but a mere opinion? A man can rid himself of it when he chooses." He's not minimizing the genuine pain that comes with challenging circumstances, but rather pointing out that much of our suffering comes from fighting against realities we cannot change rather than accepting them and working skillfully within the constraints they create. Applied to your medical crisis, strategic surrender recognizes that your parent's condition exists as a fact that must be dealt with regardless of your emotional preferences. You can spend your energy being angry about the timing, worried about outcomes you cannot influence, or resentful about the disruption to your normal routine, or you can accept the situation completely and channel all your resources toward being as helpful and supportive as possible during this difficult period. The ancient Stoics understood that strategic surrender requires distinguishing between appropriate concern and destructive worry. Appropriate concern motivates effective action within your sphere of influence, such as ensuring your parent receives excellent medical care, coordinating with family members, and taking care of your own physical and emotional needs so you can provide sustained support. Destructive worry consumes energy through mental rehearsal of scenarios you cannot control while preventing you from taking the practical actions that could actually improve the situation. Marcus Aurelius practiced what he called accepting fate while fulfilling duty, which means embracing circumstances as they are while taking complete responsibility for your response to them. Your parents' medical emergency represents fate that you must accept, but how you respond to this emergency remains entirely your choice and responsibility. Strategic surrender means releasing resistance to the medical situation while fully embracing your role in providing whatever support is most needed. This approach transforms potentially overwhelming situations into manageable challenges because you're no longer depleting your energy through futile attempts to control unchangeable factors. Instead of feeling helpless and anxious about your parents' surgery, you can feel purposeful and effective about providing the best possible support and care within your actual sphere of influence. Epictetus taught that strategic surrender also includes accepting your own emotional responses to difficult circumstances without trying to force yourself to feel differently than you naturally do. If you're scared about your parents' surgery, strategic surrender means acknowledging that fear as a natural response while not allowing it to prevent you from taking appropriate actions. You can feel worried while still functioning effectively, sad while still providing comfort to others, and uncertain while still making good decisions based on available information. The practical application of strategic surrender requires constant vigilance about where you're directing your mental energy. Each time you notice yourself trying to control outcomes beyond your influence, you gently redirect your attention toward factors within your power. Each time you find yourself arguing with reality about how things should be different, you practice accepting circumstances as they are while focusing on your response choices. This creates what the Stoics called constructive engagement with difficulty, meaning you remain fully involved with challenging situations while avoiding the emotional turbulence that comes from fighting against unchangeable aspects of your circumstances. You can be completely committed to supporting your parent through their medical crisis, while accepting that the ultimate outcome depends on factors beyond your control. Marcus Aurelius understood that this form of strategic surrender creates genuine peace during chaotic circumstances because your inner stability no longer depends on external events unfolding according to your preferences. You can maintain equanimity and effectiveness regardless of medical outcomes because your fundamental well-being comes from fulfilling your responsibilities with virtue rather than from achieving specific external results. The most profound result of mastering strategic surrender is the discovery that releasing control over unchangeable circumstances actually increases your power and effectiveness in areas where you do have influence, creating both inner peace and outer capability that serve you throughout life's inevitable challenges. Therefore, strategic surrender becomes a source of strength rather than weakness because it ensures that all your energy flows toward actions that can actually create positive results while eliminating the exhausting struggle against immutable realities. 5. Create unshakable calm in any storm. You're in the middle of one of those days when everything seems to cascade from bad to worse in rapid succession. Your morning starts with discovering a major plumbing leak that's flooded your kitchen, continues with an urgent call from your child's school about a behavioral incident that requires your immediate attention, and culminates with news that a critical client has decided to cancel their contract effective immediately. By afternoon, you feel like you're drowning in a chaos that seems to multiply faster than you can address individual problems. And that familiar sensation of panic begins rising in your chest as you realize you have no idea how to handle everything at once. Marcus Aurelius, who managed the simultaneous pressures of plague, warfare, political intrigue, and personal loss while maintaining the stability of an entire empire, developed sophisticated techniques for creating what he called an inner citadel, a place of unshakable calm that remains stable regardless of external storms. In his meditations, he writes, "Confine yourself to the present." This wasn't advice to ignore the future or avoid planning, but recognition that calm and clarity exist only in the current moment, and that your capacity to handle multiple crises depends entirely on your ability to remain grounded in present moment awareness, rather than being scattered across past regrets and future anxieties. The foundation of unshakable calm begins with what Epictetus taught as the discipline of attention, which means training yourself to focus completely on whatever situation immediately requires your response while releasing mental energy from problems you cannot address right now. In your cascading crisis scenario, you cannot simultaneously fix the plumbing, handle the school situation, and address the client cancellation, but you can deal with each challenge sequentially with your full attention and capabilities. This single-pointed focus eliminates the overwhelming feeling that comes from trying to solve multiple problems simultaneously in your mind, while your physical actions can only address one situation at a time. When you're on the phone with the plumber, you give that conversation your complete attention rather than allowing your mind to race ahead to the school meeting or the client situation. When you're at your child's school, you focus entirely on understanding and addressing their behavioral concerns rather than mentally rehearsing conversations with your canceled client. Seneca provides practical guidance for maintaining this calm focus in his letters to Lucilius. Every moment think steadily as a Roman and a man. He's encouraging consistent dignity and composed responses regardless of external pressure, which prevents you from being reactive and scattered when multiple challenges converge. Instead of allowing each new problem to increase your anxiety level, you can maintain the same steady approach to problem solving regardless of how many issues require attention. Applied to your chaotic day, this means approaching each crisis with identical methodology. Clear assessment of what needs to be done, identification of your available options, selection of the most effective response, and complete focus on implementation. The plumbing emergency, school situation, and client cancellation are three separate problems requiring three separate solutions, not one overwhelming catastrophe that exceeds your capabilities. The ancient Stoics understood that unshakable calm requires what Marcus Aurelius called the view from above, which means periodically stepping back from immediate stress to see current challenges within the broader context of your life and capabilities. Your current day feels overwhelming because you're experiencing multiple problems simultaneously, but you've successfully handled difficult plumbing issues before, navigated school challenges with your child, and dealt with client changes throughout your career. This perspective doesn't minimize the real inconvenience and stress of your current situation, but it prevents temporary clustering of problems from creating permanent damage to your confidence and emotional equilibrium. You can acknowledge that today is particularly challenging while recognizing that you possess the experience and capabilities needed to address each issue systematically rather than being paralyzed by their simultaneous occurrence. Epictetus taught that maintaining calm during storms requires what he called preferred indifference, meaning that while you naturally prefer smooth days to chaotic ones, you recognize that challenging days often provide superior opportunities for developing patience, resilience, and problem-solving capabilities. Your overwhelming day becomes valuable training for handling future crises with greater skill and less emotional disturbance. The practical creation of unshakable calm requires what the Stoics called breath awareness, which means using your breathing pattern as an anchor that keeps you grounded in present moment effectiveness rather than scattered across multiple time frames and concerns. When you notice your anxiety rising as problems multiply, you can return to slow, deliberate breathing that calms your nervous system and restores your capacity for clear thinking and effective action. This isn't mystical meditation, but practical preparation that ensures your decision-making remains sharp when external circumstances become demanding. When your breathing is steady and controlled, you can think more clearly about prioritizing tasks, communicate more effectively with plumbers, teachers, and clients, and maintain the emotional composure needed for handling each situation professionally and skillfully. Marcus Aurelius practiced what he called evening reflection to extract maximum value from chaotic days, examining how well he maintained philosophical principles during stressful circumstances and identifying specific techniques that helped him stay centered when problems multiplied. Your overwhelming day becomes valuable data for understanding which approaches help you maintain calm and which habits increase your susceptibility to feeling scattered and reactive. This systematic approach to learning from difficult days means that each crisis cluster actually strengthens your capacity for handling future challenges rather than simply being endured and forgotten. You develop confidence in your ability to maintain effectiveness regardless of how many problems arise simultaneously because you've tested your capacity to stay calm and focused when circumstances become demanding. The most profound aspect of creating unshakable calm is discovering that your inner stability becomes independent of external conditions, meaning you can maintain peace and clarity regardless of whether your day unfolds smoothly or presents multiple simultaneous challenges. Therefore, unshakable calm in any storm emerges through consistent practice in present-moment focus, systematic problem-solving, and the gradual development of confidence that you can handle whatever combination of challenges life presents without losing your center or compromising your effectiveness. 6. Design your growth system from life's hardest lessons. You're reflecting on the most difficult period of your life, a time when everything you thought you could count on seemed to crumble simultaneously. Perhaps it was the year you lost a loved one, went through a divorce, and faced serious financial challenges all within months of each other. The pain was overwhelming, and you honestly weren't sure you would survive intact. Yet somehow you emerged from that dark period as a fundamentally different person with capabilities, wisdom, and inner strength you never knew you possessed. Now, looking back, you realize that your hardest experiences taught you lessons that your easiest moments never could have provided. But you also recognize that you learned these lessons accidentally rather than systematically, missing opportunities to extract even greater value from those difficult experiences. Marcus Aurelius, who faced the simultaneous pressures of plague, war, political upheaval, and personal loss, understood that life's most challenging experiences contain the raw material for extraordinary personal development, but only if you approach them with the right mindset and systematic methodology. In his meditations, he writes, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." This wasn't philosophical optimism, but practical recognition that the same external experiences can either destroy or strengthen you depending entirely on how systematically you extract growth from the difficulties you cannot avoid. The foundation of any effective growth system begins with what Epictetus taught as the discipline of study, which means treating every challenging experience as curriculum designed to develop specific capabilities, insights, and character traits that comfortable circumstances could never provide. Your period of multiple losses wasn't random suffering, but a precisely targeted educational experience that revealed your capacity for resilience, taught you what truly matters versus what merely seemed important, and developed your empathy for others facing similar challenges. This reframing transforms your relationship with difficult experiences from passive endurance to active learning, which immediately reduces suffering while maximizing the developmental value of challenges you cannot change or avoid. Instead of simply hoping to survive your next major difficulty, you can approach it with curiosity about what capabilities it might help you develop and what insights it might reveal about yourself and your life priorities. Seneca provides practical guidance for this systematic approach in his letters to Lucilius. Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. He suggests treating each difficult period as the conclusion of one phase of your development and the beginning of a new level of capability and understanding. Your period of loss marked the end of your previous identity and worldview, while simultaneously beginning your development into someone capable of handling far greater challenges with wisdom and grace. The design of your personal growth system requires what Marcus Aurelius called systematic reflection, which means regularly examining your difficult experiences to extract specific lessons, identify patterns that create unnecessary suffering, and develop strategies for handling future challenges more skillfully. This isn't morbid dwelling on past pain, but strategic analysis that treats your hardest experiences as valuable data for ongoing development. Applied to your period of multiple losses, systematic reflection might reveal that you learned to distinguish between grief that honors what you've lost and self-pity that prolongs unnecessary suffering. You might discover that you developed the ability to ask for help when you need it, to find meaning in supporting others through similar challenges, or to appreciate simple pleasures that you previously took for granted. Each of these insights becomes a specific strength that you can apply to future difficulties. The ancient Stoics understood that effective growth systems require what they called philosophical preparation, which means developing frameworks for interpreting challenges before they arise rather than trying to make sense of them while you're in the middle of emotional turmoil. This preparation includes understanding that difficulties are inevitable parts of human experience rather than evidence that something is wrong with your life, and recognizing that your response to challenges matters more than the specific nature of the challenges themselves. This preparation transforms your relationship with uncertainty and potential future difficulties because you approach them with confidence in your ability to extract growth regardless of specific outcomes. You're not hoping for easy circumstances but trusting in your capacity to develop strength, wisdom, and resilience through whatever experiences arise. Epictetus taught that systematic growth also requires what he called the discipline of action, which means deliberately seeking opportunities to practice the capabilities you've developed through past difficulties rather than waiting for circumstances to test you accidentally. If your period of loss taught you resilience, you can volunteer to support others facing similar challenges. If it has developed your capacity for finding meaning in simple pleasures, you can cultivate gratitude practices that reinforce this appreciation. This active application ensures that insights gained through difficult experiences become permanent aspects of your character rather than temporary lessons that fade when life becomes comfortable again. You're consciously building on the foundation that your hardest experiences created rather than allowing their lessons to remain dormant until the next crisis forces you to rediscover them. The most sophisticated aspect of your growth system involves what Marcus Aurelius called anticipatory resilience, which means using insights from past difficulties to prepare mentally and emotionally for future challenges. This doesn't mean worrying about problems that might never occur, but rather developing confidence that you can handle whatever arises, because you've already proven your capacity to grow through experiences that once seemed impossible to survive. This preparation includes identifying the specific approaches that helped you navigate past difficulties most effectively, recognizing the support systems and resources that proved most valuable, and understanding your own patterns of response that either supported or hindered your ability to extract growth from challenging circumstances. Your growth system also needs regular maintenance through what Seneca called a philosophical community, surrounding yourself with people, ideas, and influences that support your commitment to learning from difficulties rather than simply avoiding or complaining about them. This includes connecting with others who view challenges as growth opportunities, reading materials that reinforce developmental perspectives on adversity, and engaging in practices that keep you focused on character building rather than circumstance control. Therefore, designing your growth system from life's hardest lessons transforms every future difficulty into an opportunity for continued development rather than something to be simply endured, creating sustainable resilience that grows stronger through each challenge you face. 7. Turn your worst experiences into your wisest teachings. You're having coffee with a younger colleague who's going through their first major career setback, and as you listen to their story of professional disappointment and self-doubt, You recognize the exact same fears, frustrations, and feelings of inadequacy that you experienced during your own darkest professional period 5 years ago. Back then, you felt like the failure would define you forever. But now you realize that those painful months taught you resilience, humility, and problem-solving skills that became the foundation of your current success. As you offer guidance to your colleague, you discover something profound. Your worst experiences have transformed into your most valuable wisdom, not just for your own benefit, but as gifts you can offer to others facing similar challenges. Marcus Aurelius, who endured personal losses, military defeats, and political betrayals that could have destroyed his effectiveness as a leader, developed a revolutionary understanding of how suffering becomes wisdom through conscious transformation and generous sharing with others. In his meditations, he writes, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." This wasn't a denial of life's genuine difficulties, but recognition that your relationship with painful experiences determines whether they become sources of ongoing suffering or fountains of practical wisdom that serve both your continued growth and your ability to help others navigate similar challenges. The transformation of your worst experiences into wisdom begins with what Epictetus taught as the discipline of retrospective analysis, which means examining your most difficult periods not to relive the pain but to identify the specific insights, capabilities, and character developments that emerged through navigating those challenges. Your career setback 5 years ago probably felt like pure suffering while you were experiencing it, but systematic examination reveals that it taught you invaluable lessons about resilience, adaptability, and the importance of maintaining your integrity even when external circumstances become difficult. This retrospective analysis requires what the Stoics called honest assessment without harsh judgment, meaning you acknowledge mistakes and poor decisions you made during difficult periods while recognizing that these errors contributed to your learning rather than simply being sources of shame. Perhaps your career setback included moments when you responded with anger, made decisions based on fear, or allowed self-pity to cloud your judgment. These imperfect responses become part of the wisdom you can share because they demonstrate that growth comes through human struggle rather than perfect performance. Seneca provides guidance for this transformation process in his letters to Lucilius. Every moment think steadily as a Roman and a man. He understood that dignity during difficulty comes not from avoiding mistakes, but from learning from them systematically and using that learning to serve others facing similar challenges. Your career setback becomes valuable teaching material precisely because it included both your struggles and your eventual recovery, offering a complete roadmap for others rather than an idealized success story that provides little practical guidance. Applied to your conversation with your younger colleague, this means sharing not just the positive outcomes of your difficult period, but the specific strategies that helped you navigate the darkest moments, the mistakes you made that prolonged your suffering, and the gradual process through which you rebuilt your confidence and professional direction. This comprehensive sharing transforms your past pain into present service, giving your difficult experiences ongoing purpose and meaning. The ancient Stoics understood that wisdom extraction requires what Marcus Aurelius called the view from the mountaintop, which means stepping back from the immediate pain of past experiences to see them within the larger context of your character development and life trajectory. Your career setback was devastating while you were experiencing it, but from your current perspective, you can recognize it as the catalyst for developing resilience, clarifying your values, and building the professional skills that now define your success. This expanded perspective doesn't minimize the real pain you experienced, but places that suffering within a framework that reveals its ultimate contribution to your growth and your capacity to help others. The months of uncertainty, self-doubt, and financial pressure weren't meaningless suffering but essential preparation for becoming the kind of person who can offer genuine guidance to others facing similar challenges. Epictetus taught that the highest form of wisdom sharing involves what he called philosophical mentoring, which means offering not just practical advice but the underlying principles and mindsets that enable people to handle difficulties with greater skill and less unnecessary suffering. When you share your career setback story, you're not just providing specific strategies for job searching or career transitions, but demonstrating that setbacks are survivable, that growth often requires difficulty, and that current challenges don't determine future possibilities. This form of wisdom sharing creates what the Stoics called beneficial reciprocity, meaning that helping others process their difficulties also deepens your own understanding of the lessons embedded within your past experiences. Each time you articulate what you learned from your career setback, you reinforce those insights in your own character while discovering new layers of wisdom that weren't visible when you first navigated those challenges. Marcus Aurelius practiced what he called duty to the common good, recognizing that individual wisdom serves its highest purpose when it contributes to the flourishing of others and the broader community. Your transformation of personal suffering into shared wisdom fulfills this duty by ensuring that your difficult experiences serve not just your own development but the growth and resilience of others who face similar challenges. The most profound aspect of this transformation is how it changes your relationship with future difficulties. When you know that your current challenges will likely become tomorrow's wisdom that helps others, you can approach adversity with greater equanimity and purpose. You're not just enduring difficulties for your own eventual benefit, but for the broader service these experiences will enable you to provide. This perspective transforms suffering from something that happens to you into something that develops you for the benefit of others, creating meaning and purpose that transcends individual pain and contributes to what Marcus Aurelius called the common good of humanity. Therefore, turning your worst experiences into your wisest teachings creates a profound cycle where past pain becomes present purpose, ensuring that no difficulty is ever wasted and every challenge contributes to both your continued growth and your capacity to serve others facing similar struggles. Your path to resilient living, integration, and ongoing growth. You now possess the complete system that Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus used to transform every obstacle into an opportunity for extraordinary growth and unshakable resilience. These aren't theoretical concepts or abstract philosophical ideas, but practical techniques that you can begin implementing immediately to change how you experience and respond to life's inevitable challenges. The question now becomes, how will you use these ancient secrets to turn your current obstacles into stepping stones toward the strength and wisdom you want to develop? Remember that adversity transformation is a skill that develops through consistent practice rather than sporadic effort. Start today by looking at your current challenges through the lens of hidden opportunity, asking yourself what capabilities these experiences might be trying to develop in you. When setbacks occur, practice reframing them as valuable data for improvement rather than evidence of failure. When circumstances feel overwhelming, use strategic surrender to focus your energy only on factors within your actual control. Most importantly, understand that resilience isn't about avoiding difficulties, but about developing the strength to grow through whatever life presents. Each time you choose to extract wisdom from setbacks, build mental strength through challenges, and maintain calm during storms, you're creating an unshakable foundation that serves you throughout your entire life journey. The beautiful truth about Stoic resilience is that once you develop these capabilities, every experience becomes valuable raw material for continued growth. Your obstacles become training exercises. Your setbacks become stepping stones. Your worst experiences become your wisest teachings. You develop what the ancient Stoics called preferred indifference, meaning that while you naturally prefer easy circumstances, you recognize that difficult ones often provide superior opportunities for developing character and capability. These principles don't just transform your personal experience of adversity. When you model resilience and growth-oriented thinking, you inspire others to approach their own challenges with greater courage and wisdom. Your transformation becomes part of the solution to the resilience crisis affecting modern society, demonstrating that human beings can thrive through difficulty rather than simply surviving it. As you begin implementing these time-tested techniques, you're joining a tradition of resilient individuals who discovered that obstacles aren't roadblocks to success but the actual path to developing extraordinary inner strength. You're not just learning to handle challenges better, but transforming into the kind of person who gets stronger through every experience life provides. The ancient wisdom you've learned today will serve you for decades to come, but only if you commit to consistent practice and application. Your next challenge is your next opportunity to prove that you can transform any obstacle into growth. If this video has provided you with valuable tools for adversity transformation, please like it and share it with others facing their own challenges. Subscribe to the Stoic Vivu channel for more ancient wisdom that builds modern resilience, and let us know in the comments which technique resonates most strongly with your current obstacles. Your journey toward unshakable resilience begins with your very next challenge. Face it with wisdom, courage, and the confidence that every obstacle contains the seeds of your greatest strength.